This is a Bloody Vegans production.
Well, thank you so much for having me on here because this is exciting. But the reason why I became a vegan is, well, my journey started. My mother had breast cancer, and when she had breast cancer, I was just like, I know it's in the food. It has to be in the food. But I was in a smaller town, Fayetteville, North Carolina. I went to college at the University of North Carolina, Pembroke, and I had just moved to New York in 2012. I think that's what it was. And I was only here for like 3 months. I was getting ready to get started to do PR. And my mom called me and said the cancer returned because when I graduated from the University of North Carolina, I had stayed home for like a year and a half because, the first, I guess, glimpse of cancer had, came into her body. And I was just like, well, let me just stay home for at least for a year. And also just to get some, real life experience. I was the resource development director for the Habitat for Humanity. So I've always had big dreams. I always wanted to live in New York. So when it was time to move, soon as they, cleared her the first time, I was out of there. I've always traveled to wherever I'm going to travel, and I blame her because she was in the military. So, I was born in Guam, lived half my life in Germany, but, I've just always traveled. That's just what we did. But when the cancer came back this last time in 2012, it was serious. So I came home and I went home for like 3 years until she passed. And I just took care of her for 3 years. So sort of put everything on hold. But while I was there, I I was just trying to figure things out because in a small town, like a military town, they don't have veganism. No one is in the South. No one is really at that time wasn't really concerned about, how you're eating, because in the South, we cook with love, so we're eating, huge amounts of food and processed foods and, lots of meats and things of that nature. Like I used to love chitterlings. And I don't know if you know what that is, but it's pig intestines. And I used to love that. I used to black eyed peas, collard greens, cornbread. Eat pizza, love pizza. Burger King, McDonald's. I was her. I was the poster child of anything fast food. I was with it, and I didn't really cook that much. And my mother would cook, but it would be more so we'd cook around the holidays. And then that's when we were really like eating, and we would eat until we were stuffed and things of that nature. So when she got cancer and they started doing chemotherapy and things of that nature, I was reading up on things on how like vegetables are medicinal and things of that nature. So I was just trying to figure it out. I didn't know, but I knew for me, I had to stop because I didn't know the way that it was going to pan out. Unfortunately, she did pass, but it started me on my journey. So I was a vegetarian for, about, I say I was a vegetarian probably like about 5-ish, sort of 5-ish years, teetering more closer to veganism. And then 5 years ago, because I moved back to New York because I was pursuing, being on the red carpet, pop cultures. I'm well versed on pop culture. I've even, done correspondent work over there in the UK. And my roommate and I, we were like, okay, we're going to do Veganuary because, that's a big holiday over there in the UK and it's trickled down over here. So we were like, okay, January, we're in it to win it. We're going to just give up. Because I was still eating, I was a lacto-ovo vegetarian. So that means I was still eating cheese and I was still eating boiled eggs. I was still eating eggs. Cheese and eggs I was still eating, but everything else I was, done. And I would sometimes eat seafood. So when Veganuary hit, we went for it. So for 30 days, we, dropped everything. There was no cheese, there were no eggs, there were no anything. Then after the 30 days, I just felt like I could really do this. I really could do this. So living in New York, it was way different being able to embrace the vegan lifestyle versus where I lived at, where I had to pretty much piece things together. I got here and it was the land of aha. It was aha. We had vegan restaurants everywhere. There were, I was meeting people who were just like, oh no, I don't do that. I don't eat the carcass of a meat. I don't, blah, blah, blah. The certain, different types of levels people were on. And then, I really got serious about it. And I was just like, okay, I'm really going to, get serious and start really paying attention to, what my health was like. Because not that I was unhealthy, but, when someone dies and they die of something that may or may not have could have been prevented, from the knowledge that I had, but, from what I've read, cancer survives in an acidic environment. So in order for you to keep the acidity down, plant-based veganism, raw veganism, alkaline veganism is the way to go. So, I was really gung-ho when we crossed over. So I was just like, all my groceries, all, just different things. And what was the great thing about it was that, veganism opened up my mind to a lot of different things like compassion. Not that I wasn't compassionate before, but it just, the behavior and the people who are vegans or plant-based or alkaline or raw, it's just a different vibe. It's just a different vibe. They're not, I feel like they're pretty chill. They're really like, I just want to live a good life. I just want to, make sure my karma is good. I want to make sure that I'm not harming anyone in order for me to have a good quality of life. And then the blessings or, karma, she might, miss your door if you stop eating meat and, start paying attention to how certain things affect certain people. So then once I did that, and because I was a talk show host here in Brooklyn, New York, I was just like, oh, we had the opportunity to have our own segments. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go for it. I'm just gonna, show and talk to people about how I'm feeling about this new, life that I had. So my first segment on there, I was doing pop culture segments, but I was just like, you know what? Let's see how we can, talk about veganism on here. So I created a segment, and it was Vegan Pop Eats, because Vegan Pop Eats came to me because I love being a vegan, I love pop culture, and I love to eat. But Vegan Pop Eats, Vegan Pop Eats is a lifestyle show. So it's the whole lifestyle of being vegan. And it's not just about eating, even though predominantly of my content is eating, as the seasons go, I've implemented, I've been able to talk to, vegan designers, especially in the food innovative space, tech space, we're starting to be able to talk to people who are in the vegan beauty space and things of that nature. And then that's how Vegan Pop Eats was born. Just one segment each week. And the first segment was me trying to convert my producer of the show into being a vegan by, going to Urban Vegan Kitchen and letting her taste vegan mac and cheese. She couldn't believe that there was no dairy in it because it was that good. And I was like, yes, I'm onto something, because I'm a pretty creative person. So it was just like, and then I started to look around, and there really isn't any commercial-esque vegan type shows or veganism, like, I guess platforms or segments, stuff like that, that's really showing you the beginner's outlook to being vegan. And I was finding that, the veganism of heyday, where, they had the typical white woman, telling you to eat your vegetables or whatever the case may be. There wasn't anybody who was African American or, Asian American or Native American and, all the Americans hyphenated. There wasn't someone that was commercialized and someone who was really showing you that this is not the veganism of, back in the day. This is, someone who really has a passion for it, someone who, may not speak, by the book dictionary wise, and, showing you that veganism is life. And so with Vegan Pop Eats, that's what I aim to show. I aim to educate you. I aim to show you where you need to go, because once you cut off meat, the first thing people are talking about is, well, where am I going to go? Where am I going to eat? Where am I going to wear? Things of that nature. And so, I'm your vegan concierge, and we're learning together, because I don't know everything, but I know enough that can get you over here, because my conversion rate is 100%. All you have to do is just tell me that's what you want to do. I'm like, I can rattle it off, because every day, veganism is teaching me how to cook better. Veganism is teaching me, is teaching me discovery, because every day I'm discovering a new thing, whether it's, the new materials we're using to wear, or, new food or new beauty and things of that nature. And, people want to go where it's fun, and I'm fun. And that's why I have, Vegan Pop Eats. And I just, I really want people to know that, one, is good over here. It's more of an asset than a liability in your life. And two, you need to come on and get on this bus, because pretty soon you're not going to have a choice. You're going to be paying $5 million for that piece of meat, because climate change is real. We had a flood in New York. Yeah. It was snowing in Houston. So yeah, that's what Vegan Pop Eats is about. It's about a good time, but still wanting you to really understand the severity and the seriousness of it. And also, why wouldn't you want to show up as your best authentic self, healthy?
I love this idea of being the vegan concierge. I love that description that you've given. And I love what you've created. I think you're absolutely right. There is certainly when I came into it 4.5 years ago, and there is absolutely a stereotype, a kind of what's kind of held up as what veganism is. This is the kind of identikit of how you should think, what you should look like, how, all these kind of things. And I love this idea that actually that isn't helpful at all to bring people in. We need to bring, everybody from every walk of life into veganism, if it's ever going to be something that we all take on in this kind of a genuine lifestyle change shift across the globe. When you started, your journey into veganism, and then thinking about what you've created now, was this something that you kind of felt it was missing, that there just wasn't anybody like you, there wasn't the kind of voices that you wanted to hear talking about veganism?
Well, for me, I didn't see anybody. Like right now, the it vegan is Tabitha Brown. Like she has taken over, and the blessings that are pouring down on her is amazing, and it is well deserved. But it shouldn't be just one, And when I would see different, I guess when production companies or TV shows would try to see what they could put together, it was very dry. Yeah. Like I was watching one show, and they had all the older-esque type white women or whoever who really didn't feel like they were bringing like passion to
Mm.
it. It was more so like, so we're going to add 2 cups of chickpeas. And then, of course, you're going to simmer that. So yum. Isn't that just sounds so good? And I'm just like, if someone was talking to me like that, that would not entice me to want to eat chickpeas. Versus with me, or versus like with Tabitha makes you, feel it.
Yeah.
She's making you feel like, that mushroom is going to change my whole life. So that's what I'm about. I'm about to get me some mushrooms. I'm gonna get some limeade. I'm gonna get me some oyster mushrooms. And you know what? A carrot never seemed like a hot dog, but because Tabitha said it, I'm about to eat this carrot dog. And that's what I want, because for me, in order to draw my attention, I have to be excited about it. And I feel that with veganism, so many I guess the so-called gatekeepers, because I was talking to someone and they were talking about how veganism seemed like an elitist type of situation, when it's not, because there's a stigmatism that veganism is super expensive. It's not. The information that they're putting out there about veganism, or the so-called faces, they're not giving you like, the real. Because for me, I don't care how you get over to the green side. I just want you over here. So if coming to veganism means that, okay, Mondays, I'm not going to eat any meat, that's still a step towards it. Because after you do that for a month, it'll be Monday and Tuesday. You do that a whole month, it'll be Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. You do that a whole month, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I don't want you to feel like, oh, I can't do it. I want you to have excitement of the fact that you didn't eat chicken today.
Yeah.
I want you to have excitement. Oh, well, dang, I went a whole month without chicken. Let me see what I can do if I don't eat chicken and red meat. I want it to feel like that, because, with people, I understand that, change is hard, especially, I don't know how it is over in the UK, but, we have the North, South, East, and West. And Southern cooking is known for heavy cooking. Like, if the South becomes vegan, like a vegan space, I will be absolutely shocked. Because in the South, that was where a lot of people who live there operate out of survival mode. You know what I'm saying? Because it's slowly becoming wealthy spaces because of the cost of living. The wealthy or the middle class are moving, in that area, because you can buy a whole lot of house, versus in New York, you got to sell your firstborn and your second grandkid in order to buy something up here. So, of course, with the way that people travel and decide to move, they start, traditions or start trends in that space. Because now, in the South, or, in North Carolina, vegan spaces are starting to pop up now. So, with that being said, it's like, you really have to be aware of how, things are going to transpire and things of that nature. If I sum that all up.
Yeah, I definitely think there's parallels in the UK. I think, when you talk about the South, the Northeast, and the West, I think, in the UK, it's quite veganism is quite London centric. It's quite considered a bit of like the liberal metropolitan elites kind of pursuit. That you can, if you're white middle class and you live in London, you're wealthy. You can afford to do it. It's yoga studios and this kind of vibe.
Yeah, it is a vibe, because If you come to New York, you see all the mothers Upper West Side in their cute Lululemon, their cute little whatever they got going on, and their designer bags, dropping off the baby at the nanny, and they're just like, "Oh my God, I just got to go to yoga today. My body is just so tight." And da 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 da. And yes, are y'all hungry? Do you want to eat an acai bowl? It's that whole situation. While the people who are sitting up here like, I gotta go to work. Of course they're happy. They're yogaing up, hot yoga, doubling it back, then able to sit around and talk about matcha all day and, just situations like that. But matcha is for everyone. Eating is for everyone, and like the biggest thing with veganism, people are just like, oh, it's so expensive. It's not expensive. It's only expensive if you're wanting to eat the processed meats and if you're going out to eat all the time.
Yeah.
And I tell people my grocery bill is no more if I don't eat, if I don't have to get any condiments, if I don't have to get any processed foods, my bill is no more than $50 a week. And that's me popping into Trader Joe's. That's me popping, to our open food markets, which is very accessible. Like if I walk down my street right now, I hit like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's about 6 open markets and they're open 24 hours where I can go and get fresh vegetables and fresh, fruits and things of that nature. So with Vegan Pop Eats, I want to show them that there's accessibility. Yeah. And then on top of that, it's not that expensive. You have to just want to value your body and your health versus me buying those $400 Jordans or that $1,500 Gucci belt or things of that nature. And I'm not saying you don't deserve those things, and I'm not saying that, but just make it more of a priority to make it make sense, because $500 shoes versus your health, if you're in the grave, you can't wear them. And of course everyone is going to die. Like I'm not saying that you won't die as a vegan, but you should want to put your best self forward. And there are unhealthy vegans. Like let's be clear on that, because veganism is not the end all be all to great health success, but it is a tool. It is a tool. And as soon as people realize that and really start to make it make sense, the cost of it would be more making it make sense versus you feeling like, oh, I'm going to do without if I pay this amount. Your health should not have a price on it. It should be, I'm going to do whatever I need to do in order to get there.
Yeah.
And that should be the bottom line.
Yeah, 100%. It's quality of life, not just the avoidance of dying young or whatever, but the actual quality whilst we are here. I think certainly for me, since going vegan, and everyone says it, all the things about energy and so on and so forth. I genuinely have felt all of those, but I absolutely am with you on insofar as I worry about this actually sometimes, is that there is a lot of excitement over the kind of the invention of kind of almost technology in food, like the processed meats, the Beyond Meats, the Impossible Burgers, and all this kind of stuff. And I do think that they have a place. Absolutely, they have a place. But I worry a little bit that they kind of don't necessarily teach people about like practical cooking, if you like. They make people feel like it's expensive and therefore not accessible to them. Whereas I think about, I grew up. My mum's side of the family was Indian. She was one of 6. And came over to the UK in the 50s, early 60s, late 50s, and and obviously I came along a lot later. But when I came along, I remember my grandmother was, an Indian woman cooking lentil dals and things like this, like that were low cost. There wasn't about expense. And actually looking back was super tasty, super healthy. That she wouldn't have
Yes.
ever described herself as vegan, because the word wasn't necessarily like in the zeitgeist, if you like. But absolutely, like I do sort of hark back a little bit to those times, and not only that, but think about those cultures and think actually some of those cultures that
Yeah.
wouldn't describe themselves as vegan are absolutely the kind of like the benchmarks or go-tos, if you like, for either information or kind of examples of how to live low cost, healthy, great diets and so on.
Absolutely. Chickpeas are not expensive. Even if you got it in the can, even if you got it in the bag. Every week that I go, because we stockpile chickpeas to a certain degree. We're not like all over the place, but there's all the chickpeas are always like $4 for $1, or they'll be like $4 for like $2 or something like that. Something, it depends on when we catch a sale, and it'll be a can of chickpeas. And with chickpeas, you can put them in your salads, you can put them in your soups, you can make chickpea tuna.
Yeah.
There's just so many things that you could do with chickpeas. And chana saag is like my favorite Indian dish. Like, South Asians have it on lock as far as flavor. I can eat chana saag every day, like every day. And I tell them to do my naan without butter or anything like that. But it's the most flavorful thing, and it's chickpeas and spinach, and it's stewed down. Like, it's phenomenal. Like, being vegan has changed my palate so much, because once you've consumed because like I said, McDonald's used to know my name, Burger King used to know my name, Cookout, I used to love a good, shake, fries and things of that nature. But when I became vegan, I used to couldn't stand Brussels sprouts.
Yeah.
Love Brussels sprouts now. And I was telling someone the other day, I was like, the only reason why you like meat is the seasoning. It's not if we put the same seasoning on vegetables. And it's always the people, for me, who say that they can't come vegan. They're on medications. They're like, oh, I just came back from a doctor's appointment, but I could never be vegan. Like, I'm like, ma'am, I you know what? I think that we need to reevaluate what we got going on, because you just came from the doctor's office and they told you had diabetes, and you're telling me that you can't eat vegetables and that you don't like vegetables. Make it make sense. I need you to make it make sense, because now if you're born with diabetes, I get it. But if you get diabetes because you did something to your body, that doesn't make sense to me. And that's my opinion. But, it's always the people who, are like, oh, veganism, I could never give up meat. Don't say you could never. Say you don't want to, and just, keep it a buck. You don't want to because you're afraid of change. You're afraid of things that you may not be used to, but in order for you to grow, you have to be open-minded to different things. And that's why I was so fortunate with my mom being military. I was able to live in spaces and be around different cultures opposite of my own, for me to be able to have an open mind. So I always tell people, I'll eat anything as long as it don't smell bad. Because, living overseas, I ate German food. I ate, Korean food. I ate Japanese food. I ate more other culture foods than I did Americanized foods. So my palate was always, I guess, eclectic. I guess, if that could be, how I can describe it. But vegan food is so flavorful, and the way that the chefs nowadays are being innovative, turning zucchini into, a hamburger or turning it into, ice cream. We have a space here, I think it's called Quele. I might be saying it wrong, but she makes plantain ice
Oh
cream.
wow.
She makes plantain burgers. She makes like different things. Like being a vegan just is just one of those things where you'll be surprised what you can do with the vegetables if only you would have an open mind to it. And I think that people, get a bad rap because they don't have enough information. And that's why I felt like Vegan Pop Eats was important, because when you're new, you need someone to show
Yeah.
you the ropes. And that's why I say vegan concierge, because when you go to a hotel, when you go to the concierge, they know everything in the city. If you say, "Oh my God, I need a massage." Oh, well, Jean-Luc down the street is da 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 da. They tell you, they don't leave any stone unturned for what you need to get done. And for me, if you say, "Well, Angela, I'm coming to New York. Where can I eat?" Oh, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to do? Because, with Vegan Pop Eats, we're going into our 4th season, and I haven't even broke the iceberg of how many, vegan spaces that are here, because we're opening up new ones, and ones that are popular in other spaces are now finding spaces here, like Plant Burger from DC with Chef Spike Middleton. He's coming here. He's opening up one in a couple months or something like that. And I've already, had him on the show. Planta is here. And that, I think it comes from, don't get me to lying, I think it might be California or Arizona, something in those spaces out west, or whatever the case may be. But I can tell you, like, the best fried chicken here, hands down, that I know of, is Heartbreakers. When I had that vegan fried chicken, I almost lost my whole mind, because it was that good, and it was freshly made seitan, and Chef Erica is phenomenal. Like their stuff was so good. I think Veg News didn't have them on the list, and people were like, "Yo, you missed Heartbreakers." Like, their stuff is so bomb. And just different types of dishes that you would want to try. I can pretty much give you a small summary. I might not be able to give you everything, but I can give you what you need for what you're doing here in New York. And the goal of Vegan Pop Eats is to be able to say that in every, state or country that we go to, because I think people would cross over easier if they had, like, what to do next. So if I throw out all my meat, what am I supposed to eat? That's the answer that people want to know. Okay, you want me to do all these things? Show me how it's better, or show me how I'm supposed to do this. And that's why I'm here, and we're learning together, because, like I said, I am learning new things every day. I'm finding new spaces every day. I'm getting more involved in the vegan community, so I'm knowing, the movers and shakers, and the celebs and the entrepreneurs in this space. So that's also helping me learn more about operating in this space. Like, there's different levels of veganism. Some people are animal activists. I am not that. I love animals, but I'm not about to be out in the street telling you don't kill a dog or don't kill this, because that's not my ministry. We all come to veganism different ways. I came for health reasons. Some people come for environmental. Some people come for the animals. Some come for all three. But eventually, I know that when you grow into this lifestyle, you can't help for the trickle down effect. But I'll never be that girl who has a dog in a stroller. And I tell people that because it freaks me out. It freaks me out to know that people are walking around here with strollers and dogs. It freaks me out. It does. And I tell you why is because when I first came to New York, because I didn't see that stuff in North Carolina or in the South, they just let their dogs, run or they'll have a leash on it or whatever. But in New York, they really, and I don't know what they do in UK, but they really do the most with their pets. Like, and I get the whole thing. Like, I don't want any animal activists to be like, Angela, what are you talking about? What are you doing? I get it, because they are, they're your babies. They're your, an extension of your family. But for me, and this is where I'm growing, for me to have them, I would never want to harm an animal. Animals do not deserve to be harmed, things of that nature. They deserve to have the best lives as possible. I get that. But when I first moved to New York, I was waiting tables, because I always wait tables part-time somewhere, it's extra money, it's quick, fast, hurry. And I was just like, oh, I saw this stroller, and I love a cute baby. Like, I love like babies. I just think they're so cute when they're little, but then when they get about 5, hand them off. Go, you can go. And I was just like, oh my God, stroller was tricked out. Like, it was a stroller I was just like, oh wow, because I've heard about the women with the $1,500 $2,000 strollers, and this one was tricked out. So I'm walking over there and I'm like, oh my God, and she's over there like, oh no. You know how they do with the babies, like, oh baby, mama hungry, baby hungry. I go over there and I look in there, and there is a Chihuahua. I was like, what is going on? What is going on? Like, this stroller, I know for sure, is about $1,500. And there is a Chihuahua sitting here, and the parent is like, mama baby want a treat, mama baby. And I was just like, it sent me over, because I never saw anything like that. And I told one of my guests that I was like, I'm here for the animals, but I could never see myself with a $1,500 stroller and a Chihuahua's inside of it. But I'm also the person who's not going to spend, $1,500 on a pair of sneakers. You know what I'm saying? Because it just needs to make sense. It needs to make sense. And I'm not saying, once again, I'm not saying the dog doesn't deserve a stroller, but a $1,500 stroller, that's not my ministry. It's just,
I'm not sure the dogs are into strollers, really. I think that's more about the owner than it is about the dog's well-being.
Oh my gosh, like, I had never saw it in my life. I swore after I saw that, I talked about it for a good 2 months. Like, can you believe? Like, are you serious? But then, you have to find your passion. Like, there are really people who are really passionate about animals. And I had animals when I was growing up, loved my dog, loved this, but I never thought to be like, well, let me bring my dog into the grocery store, or let me bring, different things. So again, you have to find your passion. You have to find out what really makes you tick in this space. And for me, it's the health aspect of it. For me, I think it's going to be leaning towards the climate, because, without the climate and without the planet, where are we going? I know that, the wealthy are quickly finding their way to find a space, because that's why we're trying so hard to get to Mars.
Mars and New Zealand.
You know what I'm saying? We're trying so hard to get to Mars because they know they done had a whole full on Coachella concert down here and messed up the environment. So they're just like, you know what? Let me go move somewhere else. And Mars seemed like a good idea. And if we're able to have life on there, the wealthy is going. That's just what it's going to be. So we, as the people who may not get to that level of wealthiness, like billionaires, because it's possible for everyone. It's possible for everyone to be wealthy, and you just have to depend. It just depends on how, how you're wanting to work, how you're wanting to, be involved with different people. But the ones who already have it, the generational wealth, that's what they're doing. So it's not just like, ooh, this is a new, trip. because we got money and we just want to floss on everybody. I know that's what they're doing, but they won't say anything until they really have, got it together up there. There's probably a full blown like city up there and we don't know about it because we don't have the keys. But I honestly think that that's what's going to happen. But the people who have to stay here, we really need to get mindful about,
100%.
It. Because we had a flood here, killed 40 people. And of course, we're surrounded by water in New York, but it killed 40 people. Like the water went, a friend of mine, got trapped in his car. The flood went, he drowned in his car. Wow. How is that possible? It's climate change. So I think that would be more of an interest of mine. And every day, I'm learning a little bit more about it, but I don't know if animal activism would be mine, especially the way that they treat animal activists. I'm just, PETA doesn't play.
From what you've seen in your time being vegan, particularly in New York, do you think that the message is the connection between climate change, animal agriculture, and therefore veganism? Do you see that line being drawn more clearly over the years? Do you think that it's getting into the mainstream culture, or do you still think that there's a bit of a danger that message exists within our sort of vegan bubble, within the vegan community, and it's not necessarily on the mainstream kind of news channels?
I think it's getting there. I honestly do, because even if you aren't vegan, I feel that people with common sense are starting to be like, wait a minute, how did we have a snowstorm in Houston, Texas? Like, how? And I remember a couple years ago, and I could be wrong, about 5-6 years ago, maybe even 10 years ago, they had a snowstorm in Atlanta, Georgia. People were stuck on the highway. Stuck on the highway in your car. Like, because the mayor didn't believe that the snow was coming to Atlanta. So he didn't do the precautions. He didn't do, what the city does to set up. Like New York.
Yeah.
They have trucks. They have, they make sure that y'all are going to work tomorrow. That's just, they making sure of it. Like, they're not even going to play with you. They're making sure of it. But in Atlanta, that's just not what happens. Because I lived in Atlanta for 5 years, and the most that you will get is a strong rainstorm. That's the most you're going to get. You're not dressed in parkas in the wintertime. You're not wrapped all the way up. Of course, you get a slight chill. You might get it, you might do a scarf or a leather action. But to be bundled up like we bundle, like in, Canada or maybe Chicago or in New York, the 5 years that I lived there, it didn't happen. But then for that to happen, it was crazy. It was crazy. So I think that with all the things that are happening, I don't think that it's just, the people who are vegans or plant-based or alkaline or raw, whatever. I think it is definitely going to be something that people with common sense, or people who are just like, wait a minute, that is, that's not how it's supposed to go. That's not it. So I think that slowly but surely is doing it. But I think, as we get closer, because there have been reports and just information telling people that, oh, y'all need to wrap this up. This meat consumption, this emission, y'all got 5 years tops. We're gonna have to wrap this up. And the more that people, especially with like diseases and stuff that are starting to come, like with COVID, shut down the whole city. And the verdict is out on whether it was man-made or whether it was, just something of whatever the case be. I'm not an expert on that. Everyone has their thoughts. Everyone, says that it, came out of a lab and it was something that the US did, I don't know, quality control, people control, who knows what the government does. And I try not to get into that, but I think that with those types of instances happening, and then, they're letting people know that, oh, the reason why certain people were more affected than others is their immune system. And how do you build your immune system? You're eating your vitamins, your vegetables, your things of that nature. So I think that it's slowly coming to, but I don't know how much time that we have in order for everyone to get on the bus. And I tell people, whenever I do speak with them, because I try not to be that vegan that's like, oh, you still eating meat? Oh, I'm not her. But what I will tell you is stuff that I have, read about or researched about or thought about. And I tell people, I was like, yeah, you don't have to stop eating meat now, but eventually you're going to have to. So it's easier for you to come from choice than being forced to do it, because when you're forced to do it, I think it closes your mind, versus you having a full open mind. It's like, okay, this is really good for me. And instead of thinking of veganism being a life of, lack, you think of it more of an asset when it's more of an open mind
100%,
type journey.
100% agreed. You can look at that in terms of the way people have reacted to COVID measures. Whether, like you say, whether your view on it is what it is. But if you think about, like, some people see it as this massive imposition on their freedoms, other people see it as in, I'm trying to help my community, I'm trying to protect those around me. And it's really interesting to see that, like you say, it's that mindset of when somebody, or particularly a government or a mayor or whoever, imposes something on people, they go into one of those two camps. They kind of think massive resistance, or they think actually this is probably for the good of everybody. And you can see that, if you play it forward, like you've said, you play it forward with veganism and think, you get 3, 4, 5 years down the line, and there's a sort of almost a government mandate that says, right, no one can eat meat. Like, imagine that was the world, how people would react, as opposed to, if you get on that kind of bus, that journey now, and it becomes just your life, and that's just what you do, and you feel all the benefits. People are willingly doing that right now, but it would be interesting if it was an imposition, how people would react.
Yeah, because when COVID hit, and for me, I know, and rest in peace to all the people and the families that, was affected by it. But me personally, I feel that COVID was the universe's way of telling you to reset and for you to find out what was really important to you.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how it went in UK, because overseas seemingly had a better, transition as far as how we were, like the bad stepkids.
We were with you. We were with you. We did. We were spectacularly bad.
I mean, they were like, Atlanta never shut down. Like, people, when they told us that we had to be shut down in New York, people were like, oh, we're going, there. And then what people it didn't make sense to them to say, oh, if I go to where COVID is really doing Coachella, I would be bringing it back to where we, you know what I'm saying? People didn't think about that, because everyone was thinking about how they will be doing without, versus how is this a time that I could really refocus on what I'm really trying to do. And I'm not saying I'm an advocate for COVID, because it did destroy a lot of lives, and it really destroyed people that I know. Like, my best friend's dad died from COVID just like 2 weeks ago, but he had a compromised immune system. And, I can go back and forth on, the vaccine. I didn't want to take that vaccine, but I was sort of scared into it, because for what I do, I have to go into different spaces. And, in New York now, if you're not vaccinated, they're not letting you come in. You can't go to the gym. You can't do nothing until you get that little white card. But for me, for COVID, for me, that's when my brand really sort of took off, because they sat us, when they first told us that they were shutting everything down, we went to the grocery store and we packed up. Then day later, they were like, oh, the grocery store is still going to be open. And we're sitting up here. We had stockpiles of veggie snacks. We were just ready for the apocalypse. We were ready, you know. And then they said we could go to the grocery stores, and then we were tight because we spent like $200 to $300 worth of like food. Like you would have thought,
Yeah.
this was it. But for COVID, for me, it reevaluated how I wanted to do life moving forward. And with Vegan Pop Eats, it gave me a year and a half to just concentrate on that. So COVID was a blessing for me and for others that I know, because they were able to dive into their creativity. They were able to start their businesses that, you know, when they were going to work every day, they weren't able to do. They were able to really realize that, oh, I'm doing this 9 to 5, or I'm doing this every day. But when COVID hit, my boss basically gave me his ass to kiss. You know what I'm saying? Because all the people who own these companies and things, they didn't say, oh, this is what's going on, here's a severance package, because I know it's about to get tight. They hid they hid their faces, they hid their hands, they made sure that their families were good. But they told all of us to hit up unemployment. Yeah. And that didn't sit well with me, because I felt like, you know, the people are the reasons why you're able to be like, oh, I don't have to stay in New York. I'll just go to my island somewhere until you guys get your lives together. You know what I'm saying? And I thought that it was very disrespectful to the people who made it so for you to be able to have the options to be able to get the certain kinds of vitamin doses that help you, you know, get through COVID. Because, like, for instance, our ex-president, you know, he said he had COVID, but all of a sudden he had this miracle, like, concoction that allowed him to just bounce back. But there were people in the hospitals who were stuffed with patients who didn't have that same kind of opportunity. So for COVID, for me, I thought that I felt like the universe was saying, okay, you know, this is a time for the ones who were really trying to be about that life. And when I say about that life, as in a good quality of life, you know, generational wealth or generational success for, you know, for the people who are coming after, you know, being able to recommit to your families, because the relationships that you had with your families were probably, you know, lacking, because you had to be wherever you needed to be in order for you to provide food or provide whatever for your family. But for me, COVID made me get a little bit focused, as in realizing what kind of asset I could bring to the table. It allowed me to make mistakes and trial and error with what I'm doing, but it also allowed me to thrive. So for this year and a half, Vegan Pop Eats has grown way more than what I always knew it's going to be popping because it's me. but it really grew and allowed me to connect with people like you and, you know, other people versus having to put it on a back burner while I'm working and maneuvering. I was able to, you know, drop merchandise. You know, I have my own t-shirts and stuff like that. I'm revamping them now, but yeah, I was able to drop t-shirts. I wouldn't have never been able to, but it wouldn't have happened as quickly as it did because I was able to sit down and fortunately I had money coming in where, because I was sitting down, I wasn't going out to restaurants. I wasn't buying a lot of this, and I was able to invest back into who I am and what I was trying to do. And it sort of came full circle for me because I moved back to New York because I felt like my story was incomplete because I had to leave and be gone for so long. But it also put me back in alignment with what I've always wanted to do because I went to school for public relations and broadcasting. I was an anchor and a reporter all through college. But then when it was time for graduation and they told me how much I was going to be making coming out of a 4-year degree, and I would have to go to, this small town making, $18,000 just to get my foot in the door, that wasn't my ministry. I wasn't here for it. So, I stayed another semester and got my public relations part of it because most of the classes are the same because public relations is communications. And I came out doing PR, but something always pulled me to, being in front of the camera, being able to have meaningful conversations. And that's just where I felt comfortable at. That's where I just felt my authentic self, where I could show up as myself. And when my mother was sick and while I was taking care of her, I was just like, well, how, when you're faced with someone who is dying, it's like, I only have this amount of time left. How do I want to spend this amount of time? And for me, and it's always been, is that I just want to be where I can show up as my authentic self, however I'm coming. And I just want to make my ancestors proud. That has always been something that has been, very important to me. And I always knew, like, I'm obsessed with pop culture. Like, I just know pop culture. I just love it. Every day I'm, reading the blogs, I'm reading this, I can have a conversation about it, opinionated, non-opinionated, comedic, whatever the case may be. And my goal was always that I always wanted to be a correspondent or an anchor on E! News. I always want that. Like, if that happened, you can stick a pin in me. I'm done. Like, that's it. But when, while I was there, I was given the opportunity from Delana Dixon off of Diva Gals Daily. And she was also on the Gossip Table. It was on VH1. And I had saw her. I was sitting in Fayetteville, North Carolina is a small town. It's a military town. There's no like entertainment. It's nothing. You're eating, and we like to say you're eating and you're having sex. That's what you're doing in that small town. And you're going to Target and you're going to Walmart to get you a rotisserie chicken for your husband named Craig with some Hawaiian rolls and collard greens. That's what you're doing in Fayetteville, North Carolina. And if you're doing something else, you're doing that too, because that's just what the lifestyle is there. And I saw her and I was just like, I'm going to reach out to her. I have to keep a New York address. I'm going to reach out to her. So I reached out to her and she was the one who gave me my first, try back into being an anchor, being a reporter and stuff like that. But I was doing reporting over the phone. So we would do conference calls and I would, interview people over that. She sent me on my first press tour. There was a show called Sirens that used to be on USA, and she sent me to Chicago for that, had me up in the hotels and just different things. And I knew that that's what I was supposed to do. So while I took care of my mom, I was, building my resume where I was interviewing the who's who, Jada Pinkett, 50 Cent. I was just really on a roll, me and my little microphone recorder. And I was just, I knew that this is what I wanted to do. So when I came to New York, of course, it's very competitive to be, because everybody wants to be that reporter or that girl. And with those types of jobs, people don't leave those jobs. They don't leave them because, it's so hard to get them. Like the ones who are Entertainment Tonight, they're there until the wheels fall off. They're not. Sean on I think she was on Extra or I forgot what she was. I was shocked when she left. She was there for 20 something years. You know what I'm saying? And Entertainment Tonight, Mary Hart, she was there for like, I think 30 plus years at that show. She wasn't going nowhere. So now in this day and age, you have to find your own opportunities. And that's what Vegan Pop Eats turned out for me, because now I'm able to interview people. I'm able to show up as my authentic self. I'm able to do it my way. And slowly but surely, people are receptive to it. And they're receptive to it because of the way that I'm telling the story about Vegan Pop Eats. They're receptive on how I'm giving them the facts on, this is what it is, because on every show, I make sure that is said at the beginning. So people know that, yeah, I'm giggling and jiggling and eating and gallivanting, but the plot twist is you need to come on over to the green side because this is what's going on. So Vegan Pop Eats has been and is my dream manifested, and it's only going to go up from here. It's just going to go, because plant-based living veganism is the new it girl. And when you're the new it girl, it's the hot spot. And you need a concierge, and that's who I am.
100%.
You need me to tell you where she at.
Well, I think it's incredible. Vegan Pop Eats is a great resource. It really is, and so much fun and so different. There just isn't anything like it. So I want to thank you for creating it. And let's just make sure, folks, before we wrap up, because time is against us. But before we wrap up, where do folks go and find it?
Well, you can find Vegan Pop Eats on YouTube. You can also find it on Taste on TV. If you have Roku, Apple TV, or Android TV, you can download it, and it's on Taste on TV. You can also follow me on Vegan Pop Eats 2 on IG, and that's where you'll see all of the interviews that I've done on there. And yeah.
Oh, folks should definitely do that as well. They should definitely check out the lives. They're brilliant. The Instagram lives that you've been doing, the interviews with people, I love them. They're brilliant.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you for this, because your podcast is dope. And when you allowed me to be on it, I was just like,
amazing for you to be on it yourself. I was touched. You said yes. So I really appreciate it. I'm going to pop everything we've just talked about there in terms of the links, etc., in the show notes, so folks can go and check you out. And I once again thoroughly recommend it. Angela, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. Hopefully we'll do it again sometime, and speak soon.
Anytime you want me on, Jim, you just let me know. I can talk for days, as you can see.
That's all right. I could listen for
on
days,
any topic you want to talk about.
Radar hit, and I hit with the wing, like like that, and there was something there.